Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. Thanks for joining us. Um, this morning, we have a special guest. My name is Laura Joseph. For those that are not aware of who we are, I know there's like a 10-second delay for this notification that we went live. You can join us every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern for Coffee with the Critters here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page. And the only reason we may not be live at 9 a.m. that is due to if we have a special guest in a different time zone, or if I am traveling like I was last weekend. Hey, good morning, Bobby. So the notification just went out. I will see people joining. So last week hey, Daphne, good to see you. Daphne, I have a card for you. Last week, I was in Wilmington, Ohio at the Finzi Dog Sports Academy 4th Annual Dog Training Camp. You can see the replay. Our replays are always available here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page. And you can always find those here in the stream. And something else I wanted to mention was that if you want to know the schedule of Coffee with the Critters, you can always find it on our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com, or right here on our Facebook page. Just click on events, and as soon as we get the next one scheduled, it will be there, so you know what the topic is. And like I said, you can always watch the replays. The benefit of joining the live stream is you have the opportunity to ask questions as they are happening. And you guys may know now that I have the opportunity to bring you on screen with me to ask questions. We will not do that in this episode because Teri Jaymes is joining us today. She is the designer of the BrilliantK9 harness. I have 3 of them. I have one for each one of my dogs. And I will only share or promote something that I have used, tested, tried, and approve in its use and the way it was designed and its content, what have you. Good morning, everybody. Happy June. Hey, there's Deb Jones. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Teri Jaymes is in the lobby section with us waiting, but let me go ahead and introduce for those that may be new and not familiar with who I am or what we do here. My name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We are an international educational center teaching people all across the world through our live streams about living, loving, and learning with animals using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement. That may sound like a mouthful, but we have our live streaming services here where people join and learn how to use this type of interaction using the science of behavior with animals of all kinds, focusing on, but not limited to, exotics. And there you hear a yellow-shafted northern flicker in the background that I've been listening to for the past 2 months. Good morning, everybody. Okay, let's go ahead and bring on Teri. Bringing her in right now.
Good morning.
There she is. Hey, good morning, Teri. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, so some of our people are familiar with you, and those are people who are members of the Animal Behavior Center because you did a private live stream with us, and we went into detail about your harnesses that I personally love, and I'm going to give you a testimonial for them today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So for everybody that's not familiar with Teri Jaymes or the BrilliantK9 harness, that is why we're doing this Coffee with the Critters this morning. So welcome, Teri, and thank you for joining us. Do you want to, how I found out about you was my good friend Deb Jones, who is a professional dog trainer that many people know here because she's been on here a couple of times on Coffee with the Critters. Deb just said, tell Teri, I love your harnesses too.
Hi, Deb.
Okay. So Deb was here with me and I was struggling with if I could save the money that I spent on how many harnesses that I've thrown away. And it's due to Teri. You're familiar with the work that we do here. We everything we do, we try to make it as pleasant experience as possible for animals. Mm-hmm. My behavior of finding a harness was getting positively punished by the amount of money I was spending and the amount of times I just went like this and said goodbye. Yes. Because every time I was putting them on the dogs, pending I may have been able to train them to accept the harness, but to keep it on. And if there were any type of aversive paired with that harness, it was being paired with my training. It was being paired with walking the dog. Anyways, that's when Deb said, "Hey, have you ever checked out the BrilliantK9 harness?" And I was like, "No, but I'm done with harnesses." And she's like, "Before you give up, take a look at this company." So I did, and I talked to you. And I want to say your customer service is phenomenal, because
thank you.
The amount I never met you, and you were so intent on let me talk to you. So I spent like 45 minutes talking to you, and you explained everything. And now I want you to explain that here.
Sure. Absolutely.
So how do you want to share the story of how you started? Because I know you work with horses.
Yes, I grew up riding and driving horses. And so with horses, one of the first things as a young foal, you want to teach them and prepare them for life later on. And one of the things that you do is you'll put your hand on their side and just gently bump. Well, it's over those last couple of ribs that you'll just bump, bump, bump. So what you're really doing is teaching them to accept pressure, what's going to be eventually from the leg, and to move off of pressure from the leg. Well, if you walk up to a horse and you push them on the shoulder, they're going to step on your toes. It's just their natural reaction. So when you have a 1,200-pound horse standing in front of you, you have to be smart, because
I hope so.
They're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Well, so much later in life, unfortunately, I have many dogs I wish I would have had this harness for. All my dogs are rescues. I started to ask myself when I started doing agility with my little 7-pound Chihuahua, how come I have a 7-pound Chihuahua that no matter what I do, he's obedience trained, he's this, he's that, he pulls like a freight train. And I started to kind of go back and go, what? And I had bought every harness under the sun like you. I brought him in from Europe. I mean, I was trying everything. And he would go to the chiropractor or the massage therapist, and I would get the no-go. I was like, great, I have a 7-pound Chihuahua that I can carry. But I also have other dogs, I have 5 dogs, that I can't carry. They need to be able to walk. And I want it to be a good experience for all of us. So I started cutting up harnesses and making my own for my own dogs. And I would take them to Jim, my friend who's also vet chiropractor, and I'd say, well, what do you think of this one? And I would get his feedback, and as his normal response is if your dog is moving straight and tracking straight, they should have 60% of their weight on their front end. And they should be tracking straight. So what I started doing was, we live on a golf course, and I would take, and all my different iterations, I would take and go to the sand trap, and I would walk my dog through the sand trap with nothing on. And then I would put on one of my iterations, and I would walk him through the sand trap. And that became the really telling story to me that nothing else could tell me. Is my dog moving comfortably? Are his feet tracking as they should? Am I putting too much pressure on the front end or too much pressure on the rear end? And I wanted him to also pull a little bit. But what I started to find is, when I came up with this final iteration, is he was tracking comfortably. His weight was balanced as it should be. His feet were moving normally through the sand as they should be. So I started to look at that, and I'm like, okay. And what it was is literally the girth was about where your legs would fall on a horse. And what I began to realize is instead of using my leash like a drag chain, I could actually start communicating with my dog. So it's a part of my communication rather than an attachment. So much like reins to a horse or your legs on a horse, I'm using them to communicate, and in a positive way, not in a or pushing around. Because when I started watching people walking their dogs down the street or even at agility trials, it's the old arm out, dog straight ahead. The dog's front end is dropped severely, and they're dragging, pulling. And I was like, that puts a lot of pressure on their neck, their chest, and pressure always comes out the top. If you're pushing on a dog's chest really hard, it's going to come out the top. There's going to be problems up there in the spine. There has to be. So what I wanted to do was to just really work on a way that my dog could move naturally, freely, without being rubbed, pinched, prodded. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just looking for a photo as you were talking to compliment what you were saying.
So what I was really looking for was a way that my dog can move exactly as he should. And I'm having little to no impact other than teaching him direction, which I learned quite quickly with this because you're not creating that opposition. So when I'm walking my dog, I look at it like this. If I'm standing here and I'm talking to you and my shoes hurt, you have about 60% of my attention.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Because the other 40% is on my feet hurting.
Exactly. You're like, oh, my feet hurt. I'm uncomfortable. You're going to shift. You're going to move. Well, if I'm working with my dog and I want 100% of his attention, if he's getting rubbed, if he's getting pinched, he's getting pulled, or he just doesn't like the tool that I'm using, then, and people always chuckle because they go a 7-pound Chihuahua. But I will tell you something. You cannot make a 7-pound Chihuahua do anything they don't want to do.
I love that.
It is like you had better be at all times happy, positive, and try and get them out there running agility. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's no leash. There's no attachment. They have to want to do it. And they have to enjoy it as much as you do. If they don't do it. So when I get him to the line, and I want dogs to run naked in agility. I don't want them wearing equipment. But I want to get him to that line and have him be 100% ready to go. And I can't do that if his back hurts because the harness put his back out of place. Oh, there's a perfect picture.
Yeah, let me just try to see if I can get my face off of here and I can't.
So if you look at the dog standing there, you'll see that the harness sits up on the dog's back. The D-ring, which you can't quite see, is at about the middle of the dog's back.
I can see if I can get a better picture.
There you go. And so the D-ring is at about the middle of the back. It's behind the handle on top. The girth you can see comes in behind the rib cage. The harness should never be tight.
And that is so important. That is so important, the fit of this harness.
Yes. And I see, a lot of times I have to correct people. They want to put it too far forward. What's important about it is that girth should be really just behind the xiphoid process.
Which is that the sternum, like where
the base of the sternum, yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the last attached ribs are. It's kind of like a little V at the base of the sternum.
And you'll see that with Levi. That is, I remember, and this is another thing I loved about your customer service is you said, when you put these harnesses on, take a picture, send it to me. I want to make sure they're fitted correctly.
Correct.
And you have videos and I watch them. And this is so important because it affects their comfortability and the way they move. And something like, I'm going to take a video and post of how the dogs move in this, because when I have this on Quincy, she's a 100-pound dog. And I haven't on any of them, but when they're moving, it's not tight. It's nothing's restrictive. She's not pulling, and it just moves with her versus against her.
Yes.
Sorry,
And what no, that's perfect. But one of the things that we do is we have 21 sizes, and people say, why is that important? And there's a perfect example. So if I took the harness that was on the prior dog and put it on her, I apologize. What's her name again? It's
Snow.
If I put that same harness on Snow, that front chest strap would be too thick. It would sit up over her shoulders. And one of the things that we do when we make the harnesses is we are looking at what's the breed of the dog and how do they move. So, for example, if you have a border collie or a real more narrow dog, you're going to be looking at the Lucy fit. And the reason is they have higher withers. Their withers are sit back a little bit more. So there's a little bit more of a scoop. The front chest strap is going to be a little bit narrower. And also on the height of the dog, we have different options. So if we have a dog, for example, like Snow, that was a little bit more petite, we might use our other size, which is a Garmin size, which has a narrower chest strap. Because what's important is when that dog is walking and their shoulders are moving, that harness, the front, is not where we're trying to pull. We're actually working on the girth, which is further back. So the front can be loose. The girth should be snug, not tight, snug. And every dog has a different version of snug. So some dogs snug is snug, snug, and other dogs snug is even slightly touching them, it bugs them. So we want to work off of that girth where we're actually going to bump up. Just like if you were riding a horse and they put their head down, you just bump up and they start to feel it. And very quickly, I always find it very entertaining. Very quickly, a dog learns that when I bump left, that offside pressure bumps them on the girth. And they go, oh, you want to go that way?
Yeah.
You bump that way. And they go, oh, I want to go that way. And it's very gentle. It's very subtle.
And that's what you're talking about, communicating through the leash.
Yes. So when I'm walking down the street and I'm like, hey, I want to go this way, I bump, bump, bump. And we go that way. So I've had people say to me, well, how can you control your dog if he's in front of you? How can I ride a horse if most of my horse is in front of me?
And it's a 1,500-pound horse.
And it's a 1,500-pound horse. Well, because I've trained my horse. I have taken a 1,500-pound animal and I have trained him from the time he's a baby until he's an adult. And he understands what all of my communication means. We don't always have that luxury with dogs. So, but it works naturally the way they move. So it makes them want to respond quickly and easily. And thank you, Deb. I see the note from Deb.
And I think Deb is commenting because do you care if we take a couple of questions people are
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So let's see, there's several here. Somebody was asking, sorry for this pause, I'm just trying to find it. Somebody asked, what about one for pigs? A couple other questions are, Sylvia asked, can they run in the harness?
Yes.
I think that's what Deb was responding to.
Yes. They, how the harness is done is that if the harness is tight, one of the reasons we're very picky about the harness not being tight. If the harness is tight, it's just going to restrict them all the way around. Okay, the girth shuts it down, and then the front is tight, and it just shuts everything down. But if it's comfortable and loose, the dog can be ahead of you or next to you, and they can move, and you'll see the harness float on top of the dog.
And that's exactly what I see.
Yes, and what people don't realize is the materials that we use. I am very, very picky because when I first started making the harness, I realized that the materials that I used was going to be so important to the harness working correctly. So we use a UV resistant, stay soft nylon webbing for the girth. for the front chest. We use Cordura. It's a type of canvas for the top of the harness, the colored part.
I just keep throwing Levi's up here because it's so vibrant. I want people to see this while you're talking about it.
And then on the underside, we use another fabric that does not grab the dog's coat. What you'll find important in all of this is all the materials that we use don't grab the dog's coat.
That's
because
important.
That little 7-pound Chihuahua that I have has a short coat. And if he was wearing something, and I had bought some harnesses and stuff, and it would just grab his coat, and then he would get so irritated.
And then you're pairing an aversive with your walk.
Exactly. So for me, it's like I want that harness to just float on top of the dog, has shoulders, everything can move under it. He can run, he can play. And the other thing is, if your dog's standing there like this, and the harness is loose and comfortable, when he's fully stretched out, I want that harness to be loose enough so when he's fully stretched out, it's still not binding. So, and it actually doesn't take as much room as you might believe. I actually have Bruce coming to visit here. And this is a perfect example of a dog that came to me that Kayla Morris, who has this dog, she came to me at USDA Nationals, and she says, okay, I'm coming because I've tried every harness under the sun. This dog is 12 inches tall at the withers. However, he is incredibly long. He is a golden doodle corgi mix, they think. He's a rescue. They have no idea. We have no idea. He's adorable, and he's super fast. He's tons of fun. So this is an example of when I was talking about the fit of the harness is so important. If you look at that front chest strap, that is one of our sizes. It's called a garment. It has a very narrow front chest strap because this dog has a very small area to pass between the shoulder and the throat. So a lot of times the reason we're picking a size is because we're looking at the dog's shoulder, we're looking at their chest and how it sits on them. And also where the top of that shoulder is. You can see that harness, the front of the top of that harness comes just behind his shoulders.
Yeah.
And he had very pointy shoulders.
Yeah. And that's what I love. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It shows up so well on Quincy. She exaggerates. I mean, when she's walking, it's right across here and it's moving with her. You can tell there's no restraint.
Right.
Yeah. And anyways, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. So really, the whole point about the harnesses is I really was looking for a kinder, gentler way to walk my dog and to let my dog enjoy his walks with me. And that's whether we're going to go to the line or whatever. So, but what's super important to me is that I'm also looking that I'm keeping their spine in alignment. Having rescues, one of the first things we've always done I grew up in California, and one of the first things we always did was got a new horse or did whatever. We had a friend who was a chiropractor, and he would come, and this was before anybody else did it. He would come and he would work on our horses and adjust them. New dogs, people were always dumping dogs. We always had plenty of dogs. And so one of the first things we found is that discomfort and pain, behavioral issues, they go together.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that. And I know that there are studies that can be cited a million times over, but if that animal is uncomfortable and that animal is miserable, then you're gonna have behavioral issues. So to me, I don't want to create any. I've just spent $100 getting my dog adjusted and massaged. The last thing I want to do is go put something on. Well, and or have something that's torquing their back this way, yeah. or I have people who come to me all the time and they're like, well, they have a tracking harness. We also make tracking harnesses, and they're like, my vet says that the tracking harness keeps putting my dog's shoulders out of place, and I'm like, well, of course, because if you have a dog that you want to pull, then you want to cover that sternum from the breastbone to the xiphoid process, so that dog can comfortably lay in to that harness to pull.
Is this appropriate photo to show at the same
Yes.
time? Okay.
Exactly. So front harness is for pulling. That's what it's made for. If you go look at sled dogs, they're wearing a Y front harness, and it's a wonderful tool. But it should go from breastbone to xiphoid process. Because if it doesn't, what's happening is you're putting a lot of pressure in a certain area where they lay down, and it's going to come out of their back. It's going to come out in their back. So for us, what we're trying to do with the harness is we're taking all pressure off of areas that create oppositional reflex. I mean, you walk up to a dog and you push them anywhere from the neck to the back, they're just going to lean right back into you. But you walk up to their waist and you bump them in the waist a little bit, and they go, oh, okay, I'll just move over.
Yeah. There's a bunch of questions being asked. How do you know you have the right size harness for your dog?
We ask people on Facebook or on Messenger or any other way, send us a picture, put the harness on the dog, send us a picture. We're happy to make comments and or adjustments. We also have fitting videos, so we're happy to help. But really, once you put the harness on your dog and you know your dog, you'll start to find that every dog has a sweet spot. Like this dog, actually, it's a grayed out picture of one of our dogs, Lola. Her harness sits exactly where these lines are, and that is her sweet spot. When you put a new harness on her, as it starts to break in, I have to go back and adjust it. And that is exactly where she likes it. And she's happy. She's very comfortable. Some dogs, it might be an inch further forward. Another dog, it might be a little smidge back. It's just, once you get to know your dog, you'll see where they respond, really. I mean, my test for it is when I put it on a dog, if I can just gently bump up and move and I get a response from the dog that they're like, oh, okay, I listened to you. I popped my treat. I was excellent. And usually it takes about 2 minutes. I, bump, they're standing there looking around. They look back at me. I'm like, awesome, good job. Yeah. And then, bump, yes, good dog. And I'll be standing there with somebody's dog and they're like, he never listens. And I'm like, he just did. Right.
And a couple of people are commenting on different species, Teri. So, what about an avian harness? We've been asked about pig harness. Our manager here, Karen Pratt, says, what about for Winry or Cavi? If you don't know what that is, Teri, I will come back and we'll show you what it is. But when Teri, you were here, about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So Teri and I talked about a lot of this and with a lot of different species, and we were talking about numerous species, and we were talking about fit, and I was talking about my concerns with pairing that fit as an aversive. So I'm sure Teri's going to be back here again. We've got some things to talk about, but we'll leave that at that. Anyways, somebody else there's a couple other questions. Sylvia, did I bring this one up? Have you seen a change or had owners observe for some reactive dogs when they have switched to this harness? Is there a change? I suspect even harness contribute.
Yes. We actually, I rescued it when we first started up the company. I had rescued a little, and I take it from personal experience because that I know. I had rescued a little, we call him the Pike County escapee. a little guy from Pike County Jail, dog jail. And he came to us because the rescue that had gotten him out, they were having a lot of problems with him. But one of his biggest problems was his trachea is almost collapsed.
Mm.
And they said he was dog aggressive and all this other stuff. So I got him. The first thing we did when we got him, he went through chiropractic, massage. But when we first got him, I put a harness on him. Mostly because I needed to get a hold of him. That's what that handle on top is for. Because part of the issue we have with dogs is we need to protect them.
I use that handle.
Yes, I love that handle.
I love
you can help
that
them
handle.
in and out of cars. Sometimes you need to bring them in close so you can grab the handle and help them over. Sometimes it's just an emergency and you got to grab them. But the whole point of that handle is to assist you and them, because sometimes you have to keep them out of trouble. Sometimes you have to keep them from getting into trouble.
Mm-hmm. And that they can feel the difference when you're grabbing that handle. So that grab of that handle could be a cue. And to me, that's extremely important for that dog right there that's deaf and blind.
Exactly.
So I use that I don't want to say tension because I don't know, but it is. It's communication through the handle. I use that because I train Snow through touch and feel. All these different touches mean something to her. She feels that tension, boom, she stops. And that is exactly what I want.
Exactly. And the reason that that's important is MedVet Rehab uses our harnesses. And one of the things they like about the harness is a lot of tools arch the dog's back. Okay. And that just creates opposition. What this does is it bends the dog's back. So take an aggressive dog. What do? Right?
Yeah.
They lock their back, they drive forward, and they drive forward with their chest. Okay. Well, that's this position. We'll take a dog that is like, giving into something. What do? They hunch their back up and they round it out. Right? Mm-hmm. So what you're actually doing is you're helping them to get out of an aggressive position. Now, back to the original question about, that. What we did with our little guy is I modified a Halti. I love Haltis, but not the way they're originally used.
That was an important.
What I do is the ring on the bottom right here, there's another drop ring that most people hook the leash to. I actually hook the leash to the ring right under the chin. And I'll take this and I'll make it loose so the dog can open their mouth. They can, do everything. It doesn't binge. But I'll hook it right onto that bottom ring. So then I could put him in situations where I had the head control if I needed it. I had the harness control. And so we taught him the correct behavior. And he learned it. And he goes and runs. He was just in Reno at Agility Nationals and placed 19th. Okay? That dog can now walk through oodles of dogs. And he keeps his head straight. And you'll watch him, and he does a beautiful job at it. He keeps his head straight, and he's going through there, and he knows exactly where he's got to go. And he stays focused. He's out ahead of me. I can read his body language from a mile away, and he is like, Mr. Go for it. And that, to me, is gold. Yeah. Because he learned.
And this is why I tell everybody, if that animal can see, hear, smell, or feel you, you are training it, whether you realize it or not. The key question is, what are you training it?
Exactly. So, yes, in conjunction with that, he doesn't have a Halti anymore. We haven't used it in quite some time. I still don't believe it was dog aggression. It was, I don't think he had ever had the exposure and or the proper way to meet other dogs. And once he learned that, a lot of that other stuff just fell away. It was just I think somebody got it. We don't know. Somebody got him as a puppy and abused him and did whatever. And, so.
Well, and Deb Jones, I'm going to show her comment, and because she's commenting to other people in the conversation. But with that, after I show her comment, I want to show another photo. She says, pairing the tightness of a collar or harness with any sort of discomfort can definitely contribute to reactivity. Learning how to handle the leash in a more specific and effective manner, like Teri describes, with one of these harnesses can make a huge difference. So yeah, I know she was responding to somebody else, but something else. I mean, I don't have a photo of the harnesses that I tried that I didn't like because they didn't last too long.
I understand.
And you just watch the body language, and I know body language is behavior. Watch the body language of the animal as you're training the harness. Watch the body language of the animal as they're moving with the harness on. You can tell if it's comfortable or if it's being paired in as an aversive. This is the only photo I have of a harness. I was having a hard time finding a harness for pigs that, if you can see, this is me target training Milo years ago, teaching him how to walk loosely on a leash, and where I want him to go. But if you can look at how that harness fits, look, and I showed this to Teri, look how it is grabbing and pinching right underneath those legs. And I mean, I know this is a pig, not another animal, but my points are the exact same no matter what. I don't care if this is a bird, cavy, pig, dog, giraffe. Watch how the harness fits. I mean, I had to shape periods of time for Milo wearing this harness because I could tell the fit was uncomfortable. Pay attention to the thickness of the animal's hair or fur, because what it happens is it cuts in right here. And if Milo tries to lift his head, all that hair is pinching right here. I can tell it's pinching right here. And in order for me to have to shape a harness, I found out that I was having to shape longer periods of time, constantly pairing that period of time with a positive reinforcer, trying to make that harness a conditioned reinforcer. Hey, when you wear this, awesome things happen. My concern was too long of a period of time, and I'm talking like 2 minutes just in the beginning of the shaping process. I could tell by his vocalizations and his constant shaking that he was not comfortable with how it fit, and I could tell with his body language when it came off.
Right. And I think for a lot of, to me, dogs being predators have a little different response behavior. And we used to see this with horses and or dogs. You could always tell if an animal is uncomfortable or miserable or sick. You would always look out in the pasture and you would see a horse standing here. And then 2 minutes, they'd be over here. 2 minutes, they'd be over here. Then they'd be here. Then they'd be here. I know my animal is uncomfortable. Something's not right, because they should be able to rest and rest comfortably, and or sit and sit comfortably. So when I'm standing talking to people a lot of times and they're talking to me about the harness, their dog is fidgety, it's agitated, it's moving, it's looking. Those are all response signals to me that the dog is uncomfortable. So when we put the harness on and it's comfortable, people are like, oh my God, he's relaxed. I'm like, yes, exactly. So I use this analogy. Almost everybody here is probably women. If I hold up your worst bra that pinches and is irritating, and a treat, and a piece of chocolate, and I hold up your favorite bra that you can wear all day, and it's not going to bug you, it's not going to rub, which one are you going to pick?
Right. That's a good analogy.
So exactly. So for me, it's the same choice I'm presenting to my dog. If I hold up my dog's harness and they don't want to wear it, something's not right.
Right.
It's off in position. There is something completely wrong, because if they want to go for a walk or they want to go do agility and I hold up their harness and they choose not to wear it, I know something's not right.
Yeah. I was looking through some of the photos. I'll make sure we get to all of them. And Danielle just mentioned that I have a hard time having a good fit for my Walker Coon dog with her slim body and big chest. She loves to run and stretch up on trees when she sees that special squirrel, and most harnesses are very binding for her.
Yes. So I have my faithful little assistant here, Mr. Bruce Lee. He has granted us his presence. And let me grab him real quick. Come here, Bubby. Come here. Here, bud. There you go. So, this is Boo. This is the guy that started the whole journey for us.
I love that clasp.
Yeah, I know. It makes it so easy. So with this, you can see this is his everyday harness. Can you see the harness okay?
I can just see the back of it.
How's that? There, Bubby.
Okay, now we can see it going around the front.
So you can see how loose that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, boy. So you can see that that is very loose. So here's my test when I put the harness on. Because when we go out on the golf course, this little devil runs like a demon. You'd be surprised. But when we go out on the golf course, I want to know when he's fully stretched out, this isn't going to bind. But it's also not going to come off. So for dogs that are slippery, I call them slippery, it's still just snugger than his rib cage. It doesn't have to be very, very tight, but it's just snugger than the rib cage. So it's not going to come over the rib cage. So if it's not coming over the rib cage, do I need to be worried? No. So it's behind the rib cage. It's nice and comfy. And if he were in a full out run, it's not going to bind him. He's going to be very comfortable. The leash is here at mid back. Okay. So when I bump up, he's going to feel it on the tummy. And then, that's really, but you can see here, it's not binding over the shoulders. Mm-hmm. That's one of my biggest issues. I see all these harnesses that are binding over the shoulders. And think about what that's doing to that dog's back. Even him, who's kind of a rounder dog. These shoulders getting pinched together all the time, that's not good for him. So I see a lot of those harnesses that come and do this thing. Or my other favorite are those rope harnesses that come around here. And people go, well, it stops my dog from pulling. I'm like, does it really? Right. And as the dog walks away, the harness cinch up. Well, what does the dog do? He pulls harder because the dog is positive that if he gets over there, he might be in less pain.
Yep.
So that to me is what is so important about the fit is now he can go lay down, he can go be relaxed, he can stand here comfortably and he's not agitated or no, you can't have all that cheese.
That shows, just you showing him shows how loose and comfortable it is. So when the dog is running and breathing heavily,
correct.
There's no, what do I want to say? Constriction. And correct. Also, Danielle asked if you can show the front better. Can you move Bruce Lee back?
Come here, Bubby. Come here. I'm going to have to hold him for that. So this is the front, and this is why we're so picky about the front chest strap.
Okay, we get to see his head.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay. So this is why we're so picky about the front chest strap.
That's good.
Because I know he's got a big head. Come here, Bob. It's because, okay, I understand it. He says, I'm not going to do it.
And maybe, Teri, I'm happy to go out and put the harnesses on my dogs and add the videos to this live stream.
Lay down. Okay. Yeah. But and that's what's important is I think what's one of the reasons we're always looking for trainers to understand and to use the harness is because
You want to move
once
the
they
camera back up to your face.
sorry forgot about that. Once people actually use it and they start to understand, I usually find that they really enjoy it because I want it to be an enjoyable process.
Let's see if I can make this.
I want my dogs to enjoy going for their walk. I want to train them. Look, I know, unfortunately, there are many people that are going to have dogs and they're never going to train them. So at least I feel if the dog is wearing this harness, they're going to have minimal damage. I would prefer that people train them. And that's sort of one of our missions when we talk to customers and why our customer service is such a big deal. Because a lot of times I'll tell people, and I'll recommend them to the PPG website or other places, find a trainer in your area. The person says, oh, my dog pulls like crazy and I'm using a pinch collar because every time he sees a car, he goes crazy. And I'm like, so if you use the pinch collar and the next time he sees a car, does he not go crazy? And they're like, no, he still goes crazy. I'm like, okay, so I think we can all say the pinch collar didn't work.
Right. So you're using a positive punisher to change behavior, yet the behavior isn't changing, but the aversive is still there. Why?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
why continue?
Right. So my point to them is, look, if you have a dog that has an issue, this harness can help because you do have the handle on top for safety. But there's no tool that is going to change that dog's behavior.
Right.
So that to me is one of the chances that we get to talk to customers, because when we post our ads that, hey, a natural harness, ergonomic harness helps to reduce pulling, blah, 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 blah. We get, I can't tell you how many Facebook messages and messages on the website every day of people, oh, my dog pulls like a freight train. Okay, well, let's start there.
Right.
This can help with this. But then, we also have the PPG on our website, and we try to recommend trainers, go find a trainer, go get in a training class. Mm-hmm. Go do something besides. I know what's becoming popular in my neighborhood now is the people going for a walk with their
clicker.
No, the shock collar.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I get to walk my dog off leash in traffic. We don't have sidewalks in our neighborhood, so you're walking your dog in traffic. Mm-hmm. And what exactly is that going to accomplish? I have that conversation many times.
I've seen it here and had a conversation with somebody. I'm just like, you may be doing this because you think you look cool and you have control of your dog.
And you have neither.
Right. It only takes one time for an accident.
Yeah.
Somebody, Kimberly had asked a while ago, what is the chew durability? And I chose to throw this in here at this point since we're talking about training.
Okay. The chew durability. First of all, we are dog owners, dog professionals, and we also don't like to BS people. The chew durability is we repair harnesses.
Okay.
We repair them all the time because at the end of the day, as we always tell people, this is a walking tool. Okay? You can go for a jog with your dog. You can walk your dog. It's not to pull your bike. It's not to do that thing. And it's not to be left on in a crate. And it shouldn't be left on for long periods of time. No tool should be left on for long periods of time. So we do get dogs that chew them, and we repair them. And if for any reason there was a manufacturer's defect, we replace it, no questions asked.
Okay. I'm looking about, because you had made a comment to me about be careful what you're buying when you're buying people that are replicating your design because they're using different materials. And a couple of questions here. Danielle asked, are they waterproof? My Bailey loves the ocean. And do they hold up in salt water?
Yes, and yes. They're not waterproof. Part of the construction and the design of the harness is also that it's an evaporative cooler. So we use a very thin poly liner in the middle. So we have the black fabric on the bottom, we have a very thin poly liner in the middle, and then we have Cordura on the top. The reason we use that construction is that's also very much like an evaporative cooler. So the harness is very thin, it's very flexible, and it will form to the dog. So when your dog goes in the ocean and they come out, it will dry rather quickly. But if you have a 2-mile walk back and it's a hot sunny day, just keep dumping water on it. It loves it, and it helps to keep the dog cool. That's the other reason we don't want it to fit tight, is I want the harness to float on top of the dog. So every time the dog moves, that harness is passing air, okay, under between the dog and the thing, because I don't want it trapped against the dog to where it's actually going to be building up heat.
Yeah, that's important. That's important, especially that
and it's machine washable. So, like I tell people, go let your dog run through the muck, the mire, let your dog swim in the lake, go home, throw it in the wash machine, hang dry.
Yep. And Deb says, one of my dogs spent a lot of time playing in creeks and swimming in his for 3 years, and it still looks like new. And I want to say, I wish this would show up better on Quincy. But you have a wide variety of colors you can pick from. You have these Velcro strips right there on the side where it says BrilliantK9. You can, those are on both sides. I plan on getting some of these from you, Teri. One that says deaf and blind, one that says blind, or no, just deaf, and one that says I don't know. I don't want people coming up and touching Quincy on our walks unless asked to do so. So you can put these messages on the side. You can put their names on it. It's really important for me to people understand this dog cannot hear. This dog cannot see and cannot hear. But something else is my dogs, whenever we go on different outings, these are gorgeous harnesses. We get compliments all the time. So Teri, you picked out all of these for my dogs because I didn't even know what you were talking about while we were on the phone. I just told you the color of the dogs, and I told you
and people go and for a long time people discounted the harness because of all the colors. But
what do you mean?
Well, they were like, oh, it's just a fancy thing. It's not, it's not really durable. It's not a good tool because it's just got all these crazy colors. No. I want to look down at my dog and know that he is as fabulous as I think he is.
Absolutely. And I think that when I take the dogs out.
Exactly. So the reason I do all the crazy colors and all the fun stuff is because, and we switch colors all the time and come out with new prints, is because, you know what? I want you to look down at Snow and I want you to go, man, she looks awesome.
Yeah, it does.
And that's like looking down at a pair of shoes, right? I say they're like shoes. It's like looking down at your shoes and going, damn, my shoes look good.
Yep.
And that's really all I want. It's I want my dog to be, and I'll grab Bruce's harness over here. Hey, Bubby. I want my dog to be, as happy. Like this is the design Dynamic Ink. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then, all I did was we embroider their names, and they're just removable Velcro patches.
Okay.
So you can Velcro it off. So for us, like sometimes a lot of agility dogs do many sports. They have many disciplines. They can do nose work. They can do, people will have 4 or 5 different patches for their dog.
Kimberly said it'd be cool to have a phone number on the side, and yeah, that would be great for like
many
Snow.
people do that. Yes, and then this is also our new. This is Bruce size. It's called the magnetic clip. That's the other thing. When talking about knockoff harnesses, back to that issue. I apologize. And most of those you're going to see, they're going to be kind of thick, and we've bought a lot of them and cut them open. And sadly, many of them are filled with foam, felt, neoprene. We found one that was made of a cast-off rubber. It had to have been from some mechanical process. They probably bought it secondary market. So they're filled with those kind of things. Well, what happens on a hot day? Are those things you would wear?
Right.
I would not wear. I mean, I grew up in Southern California. If I went out in the ocean, I took my wetsuit off right away because it was hot. So for somebody, for these companies that are selling those kind of things, I'm just always very disappointed in how little they care about animals, because they know what it's doing. They know that it's too hot. And the webbing, he's had this harness for 2 years, I want to say. And, the webbing is still nice, soft, very flexible. You won't see dog hair caught up in it. Okay. He wears this harness all the time. Has his little short hairs all over there. And, it's going to last, and it's going to be quality. It's not grabbing his hair. It's not pinching him. It's going to be just as comfy. And the other thing we do is we do these speed buckles.
I love those.
Are these the best?
Yes, and it's so easy because it's just a boom. You just real quick off, and a real quick, you just lightly touch it, and it just goes plunk and sticks right to it.
Yeah, it's actually a magnetic attraction, but a mechanical close. That's what I love about it. So they're not going to just break off or peel off, or the dog's not going to get it off easily. But for all you trainers out there that are working with people that may have dexterity issues or anything like that, this is a great tool, because my partner has MS. And so for her, she was like, you got to come up with something, because I'm really struggling to unhook my dog when I go in the ring. And so I started looking around, and I found these little doodads, and I just love them. And they make it so easy. And I can't tell you how many people that have arthritis or other dexterity issues that are just like, oh my God, I so love that.
Yeah, there's a couple different people making comments. Mary Lynn Hunter says, having a service dog, the cooling aspect is exactly what I need. Bravo. All of Dublin's harnesses are hot. And Karen asks, can you compare the plastic latch to a metal buckle? I'm always concerned that the plastic isn't as strong as the metal buckles.
So here's my answer to that. These all have safety ratings. Okay. And there's actually a metal buckle on the market that we tried. What I found with the metal buckle is, in some ways, metal is stronger, but in other ways, it's a little more fragile. And this is the exact place where, when we go to an agility trial, I always have like 53 million things in my arms. I'm famous, or I just have this unique talent for dropping the harnesses and stepping on them. So, boom, down on the ground it goes, and I step on it. And I've tried the ones with the metal buckle, and I will tell you, they break just as easily. And the tensile strength actually comes from the plastic, because the metal buckle part, I don't have one here.
And we have, Karen, next time you're at the center, take a look at the harnesses we have hanging out there on the E-Pen. We've got
what people don't realize about the metal buckles are, if this part is metal, this part is not metal. And the strength of the buckle comes from right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 16th of an inch. That's the strength of this buckle. So when your dog is pulling or doing things like that, That's where this buckle is its strength. There's a little flange edge right there.
That
Okay?
little tiny
Yes.
corner.
And when you see it lock in, okay, that's the strength of this buckle. When it's on your dog, it's unlikely that it's going to be twisting or pulling or any of those things. So it's the downward pull strength. Okay? So for me, what I'm most concerned about, and when I do my testing, okay, testing is it's always a very entertaining thing because you can test breakage this way, or you can test breakage this way, or you can test it as a twist. The only one I'm concerned about is when these two are together and this. So one of my favorite things to do is I will actually, I will hook up the thing, and I will hook it up, and I'll put it between my van and my truck, and I want to see how quickly it breaks. Just take that. To me is my test. If I just put the van in neutral on, we have a sloped driveway, and if I just put the van in neutral, I just want to see, will it hold it and how long?
Yeah.
That's my test. And for the size of dog. Because the other thing is, if I take this buckle, and here's my other thing about these knockoffs, they will take one size of buckle because they want to be cheap on the straps, and they will give you 4 or 5 sizes, and you'd have an 1.5 inch webbing on a dog Bruce's size. This is the webbing we use for Bruce. That's size appropriate. Okay. This is the buckle I use for Bruce. It is weight and size appropriate. He's a 7-pound dog. Dogs should only carry about 10% of their body weight. So if I'm going to take and put this big heavy thing on him, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, Teri, I've got one more question, and then it's coming up on the hour. So
sure, sorry.
Nope, no worries. No worries. Thank you for your time. But I wanted to mention a couple of different things. Once I get off here, I'll go do some video, maybe some live streams here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page, showing the dogs and their harnesses and how they move, because Quincy represents it so beautifully. And don't forget, if you're a member of the Animal Behavior Center, don't forget you have the discount to use for these harnesses. And maybe we even do some training videos in the memberships for these as well. But something else, Karen says, great, thank you. You've convinced me. Teri, Kimberly asks if there is a warranty on the harnesses.
Yes. A couple of things. Yes, there's a warranty on the harness. And I call it the logic warranty or the common sense warranty. If your dog chews it, you're going to pay the repair charge. If for any reason the harness started to fall apart, started to fray or anything, send it back. We'll get you a new one. If you have a special print that you absolutely love, we will do everything possible to keep you with that print.
Awesome.
And then one thing I would like to add quickly is that I think is important is that, do reach out to us. We are really happy to help you size. If you have any questions and you're not sure, I know the sizing is confusing. I'm just releasing a size configurator that will be out in the next few weeks. But we do want to help you get to the right size so that your dog is, as comfortable as they can be.
I'm laughing because of Pat. Is that showing?
Yes.
I don't even have a dog, but now I want one. So you guys, you can reach, you can find Teri's BrilliantK9 harnesses on her website, BrilliantK9.com. Look it up.
Oh, and sorry, don't be afraid to ask for custom.
Okay.
If there's a dog that is not, we make custom harnesses and custom equipment, service dog equipment all the time, assist dog equipment. So if you have a need, special need for a customer or a client, you need a buckle one way, or you need another buckle here because the dog won't let anything go over its head, just let us know. We do that all the time.
So Shelly's asking about a specific animal. Yeah, definitely, Shelly, contact Teri. She can help you. Um,
On our website, we have a where people can message us, and also on Facebook, we have a messenger.
yeah. So you can reach Teri on her website at BrilliantK9.com. You can also contact her for more information on her website at info@BrilliantK9.com. Good, great. So there's a lot of different people on here making comments. Like I said, for those of you that are members, because I know several of you on here are watching and are talking about purchasing one, don't forget you can enter your discount code if you're a member. So with that being said, Teri, thanks so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. I appreciate it. It was good seeing you again and talking to you. And hopefully you'll be back up here again. And we can, yeah. And
For
we can
Milo.
talk, yes. And we can talk about a couple other species too. All right.
Yes, I'll get
Yeah.
to work on that.
Okay, so everybody, don't forget, you can find out about our upcoming schedule for next week if you go to right here on the events section of our Facebook page. We also have an events section on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page, and you can always reach us here on our website, or you can reach me directly, come straight to me at my email address. All right. So, Teri, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And I will be in touch very soon. And everybody else, I will see you next weekend.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Teri.